I've learned a little bit.
It's hard to absorb.
Well, it is.
It's a complex.
I think, it'd be interesting to talk to people in the county and see what their feelings are, what we need to do, whether we need to.
The hard part about
overall do the whole county or do a tip, like Joe said, the tip. If it worked for Carroll County, it would work for us. If we got a request, whether it be along Highway 20 or Highway 71 by the lake or close, we got time to respond and not put a damper on the bill.
Just maybe calling Bob Johnston, because he's the overall authority in the state to guide us through this process. But talking to the average Joe public, I mean, this is hard for you to understand, having explained to you. You can't just walk out and say, "Oh, Dale, what do you think?" And you're like, "I don't know anything about it." It's hard to absorb all of that. So.
And we've been learning for some time.
Yeah.
And, still
for the man on the street,
that we don't know. I mean, we've certainly learned some things again today. So,
be interesting, if we can, if the barn quilt, the group that represents the barn quilt, if they can't put up a sign on the new Highway 20, it's a problem that we have to address one way or the other.
And there may be an instance where somebody comes to you and says, like over by Ackley, they have a welcome to Hardin County, and in Ackley side, there can be an official city or county sign, but you have to pass an ordinance for that too. So I'll bring you all this fine information so you have that.
And if you guys get to that point where you need to do some changes to zoning or the ordinances or whatever with regards to signs and stuff, we'll help you with that too. Yes.
By putting that notice in the utility buildings, that satisfies the requirement?
We didn't actually put it in the utility buildings. We just got their mailing address. Yeah, just because that's a good, generally a good, pretty good reference. Now, there are some times where you have to, you've got rental properties, and you're supposed to notify the occupants and the owners. So we have to do a little bit of, in the city it's not quite as big of a deal. In the county it might be something we have to do a little bit of research on. Get property owners list from the county, and then maybe RECs, utility buildings, whatever.
Very difficult thing.
It's something that can be done. I mean, it's
several different utility companies in Sac County.
Right. So it's something that would just take a little. It just take a little bit more time, but that's just one of those things that we would do. It doesn't sound like it's any urgent.
Thank you.
It's like he was saying with the TIF. If you really wanted to do this, the TIF is going to allow you more flexibility on getting somebody that tax break where it wouldn't have to be right now, because your urban revite has to be in place by the time they get started.
Right.
Like Farmers Co-op, would already lose some because they're already started. With the urban revite, or TIF, excuse me, it could take 3 months to decide if you want to do a TIF on Farmers Co-op, and you still go back to, I'm not sure when the deadline for going back to December 1 or 09 base, but even if you went back to 10 base,
right,
we're working on 11 already.
Right.
So your 10 base is still 0. So you'd have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, he's right. That's the nice thing about TIF is you got a little time. We got tax abatement, the urban revitalization. You got to have it in place before they can.
Well, yes and no. To gain all the benefit,
right.
You're right. Dated as of any improvement after that.
Right, after that.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah, if they've started, I don't know.
If you wanted to do it,
they're just moving dirt now. Right?
Yeah, if you want to do it more, by the time you got through though, they already had the foundations in pretty much.
The tip keeps it more current. Say this board would put through not tip, but road revitalization, and then we get a different board, and we get a request from a request that not everybody in the county is excited about because of the nature of what they're applying for.
Sure.
Then we got a legal problem. The new board, they got to deny this unsavory business, where if you keep it, you know, using the TIF, that board can decide to deny.
Yeah, I don't know if you can with an urban revite.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I don't think
Once that's in place,
If they meet the,
maybe I wasn't explaining.
if they
I
meet
agree
the
with you, yeah.
assess figures, I don't think,
Yeah.
you probably, talking to the Department of Revenue, the only time we ever dealt with it has been cities. Cities can basically do whatever they want. Because when they annexed the east end of the lake, those houses that were already there were not supposed to be allowed to get into the urban revite because they weren't part of the city when they built. But talking to the Department of Revenue, he says it's up to the city council. So even though supposedly they're not supposed to get it, the city council says they get it, they get it. So it would be similar to you guys if you wanted to, for some reason, deny somebody. I mean, you might end up in court, but you could probably do it.
It politically wouldn't be as easy to do. You know, if you've got something on the books and they're in that area and they're doing it, and everybody says, God, we don't want this here.
You could say, you know, they're like an adult bookstore. It used to be an abandoned filling station along 20. You're saying you're denying my free speech. Right. The First Amendment says I mean, that's absurd.
Right. But whether or not you may ultimately win, I don't know. Said, you know, you can kind of do.
We'd have more control. Our people that follow us would have more control.
And with the TIF, you can be more specific on your parcel. You can do a parcel, right. Where in urban revite you're not supposed to do a parcel.
Right.
You can do a specific spot.
And those are very good points. It would not. I mean, you could refuse the TIF, but they can forego that tax and still build.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, so you're not gonna eliminate. That's correct. That's
right.
True.
That's just for the debate.
That's.
And another
that
thing,
they can forego that and still go ahead and build.
With when you're in with the TIF, then you're probably dealing with a give and take where, you know, you build this, we'll give you this, you know, I mean, you don't have to give them the whole 100% for every many years. You give them 20%. You might be able to also set up a minimum assessment agreement.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up. You know, like you mentioned, a lot of these guys, yeah, we want this, and then we think it's valued too high. Well, if you set that forth in the agreement, you know, you said it's going to be $500,000. You're going to sign to that. You're going to agree that's what you're going to pay on. You're not going to fight us.
We've talked about that.
Yeah. We come out and say this is what it is.
You're wanting an economic development TIF, an abatement. We're going to base it on this amount of value.
Right.
So not after the fact, like we were talking before.
Right.
After you get it in play, and then they come in and protest and say, well, it's not worth that much.
We had that discussion a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, you know, when you guys, you know, if as things come up, you know, definitely let us know. And if you want to proceed with your revitalization, let us know too, and we'll draw it up. Like I said, that and or the TIF stuff, any of the stuff we do for that doesn't cost you guys anything.
I mean, we're still learning.
Sure. And if we can bring you any more information or examples, because we can do that too. We can see once if we can get some more examples of, you know, county. I mean, I know you guys are all part of ISAC, and there's, you know, that end of it. We can give you some perspective from like, the COG end. You know, we deal with our counterparts across the state too, as far as how they've done some of the back stuff. So if you want any of that stuff, just let us know, and you know, Jack can let us know. We'll see what we can get together.
It's not new. Somebody's done it someplace to find something, so.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at it as kind of an enticement for other businesses to come in. If somebody comes in and wants to know, we're right here, we've got it right on the books already, this is what we will do. Instead of having to go and go, I don't know whether Ida County has anything, I'll just use Ida County. Instead of going to Ida County, well, Ida County don't have anything, and we don't want to go in and have to argue with supervisors on what are we going to get. We can go to SAC County, and we know what we're going to get.
Right. And, you know, and that certainly is one way to look at it. I think from my experience, I would argue that there probably are not a lot of those out there that are hunting for those types of, if you have a business that's interested in Sac County, they're going to be interested for one of a lot of reasons, the least of which has to do with them, because they'll come in and ask. They want to be here, they're going to come in and they'll come in and ask. I mean, generally, there probably is an exception to that. You're not going to have somebody who's going to say, well, we won't even talk to them because they have tax pay. I mean, they're going to want to be here for either you've got, because it's Highway 20, or it's a rail line that runs through south part of the county, or somebody's got really good water, whatever. Or markets here for whatever they're producing. So,
by the same token, when we get a request from a prospect, though, we have to respond within 24 to 48 hours. We don't have time for you to make up your mind in that window to give them a response of what's available in the area. So it's kind of nice to have something set up, because then you are in competition, and we aren't. I mean, we competed with another 100 community for Evapco, you know, and it's ready to say what they were going to do right then and there. So we can't have this dilemma of, we don't have the time, we don't have the window of opportunity to come up with something. Make my job easier if you had something in place, if you knew what you were going to do. So, yeah, makes communication easier with the companies, though.
Thank you very much.
Instead of, gee, I might be able to make them change their mind.
surely you just got to tell them no, or just say, this is what they're going to do, and they come here and tell these guys, I told them this is what you were going to do. And then,
I do that.
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, Jack.
I can't
Already
imagine.
said, yeah.
Thank
Sometimes
you,
we have
Joe.
to do that.
yeah, thank you guys too. So let us know if you need anything else. Or,
Hopefully there will be a need down the line here.
well, I think, you know, with the Highway 20 thing, that's something that not a lot of other counties, well, you know, in this area, obviously a few, but that's going to be a good tool, I would think,
So,
for transportation. So.
Well, I think, you know, FC's decision to locate early, I mean, that's on Highway 20.
Oh, sure, it is.
So I think that's the first, visible sign that, because they can roll the byproduct, you know, east on 20. Yeah.
Right. What are they doing up there?
They're building a couple scale and a grain storage.
Okay.
You know,
South of town, it's a big, I don't know if you're going to.
Just about.
Whole site preparation.
on the west side, east side of Old Dwyer.
so,
Oh, okay.
To speed things up and take the congestion out of early.
Sure.
They're gonna have two scales too, an in and an out, so you don't have to line up to go out and line up to go in.
you look at, you know, like at early, you look at the map of 20 and, you know, early might be, you know, people might be looking at options to put a convenience store.
Sure.
Because you got 71 and early,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, early's, you know, their sewer system's just been redone. And,
Mhm.
you know, talking to people at Parkersburg, you know, that might be a good location for a big truck stop or something.
Right. There's going to be some opportunities there.
Just whether the city annexes the land and does it, or whether you guys can do something within the county proper there.
Well, and the big card is that they're so close.
Yep.
I mean, most others are at least 2 miles off, where they're,
Right there.
yeah, within throwing distance. So,
Yeah, the utilities are where the cities kind of really have that. You know, you guys obviously don't have sewer and, you know, water, you know, providing. That isn't your job. The cities can generally do those things.
They can. So,